Hello everyone, amateur meteorologist FirstinWeather here. It is that time of year again. It is the beginning of July, so it is time to look and start contemplating making decisions about and forecasts about the upcoming winter. We're a full half a year away from that, but it's never too early to start. So this first video is not even going to talk about the 2019-2020 winter. Rather, it's going to be an analysis of the 2018 and 2019 winter and what went so awfully wrong for all those people, including me, who were calling for a very cold and snowy winter in the eastern half of the United States. So I'm going to take a look at what happened, what went wrong, and I'm doing this presentation to give myself a better idea and understanding of how I can use what I can learn from these mistakes and make a better winter forecast for this upcoming winter, and how we can see what in this winter could be present next winter, and how that could maybe influence my temperature, precipitation, and overall winter forecast. So let's get right into the video. So here are the results, the analog results from the 2018-2019 winter, and as you can see, it is not looking good if you want snow in the east. We had a very large area of above average temperatures in the southeast, so you had a persistent ridge just southeast of Florida pumping in those warm temperatures, and then you had some very cold conditions in areas in the western United States. It's been a while since we've had a cold west, warm east type of winter. Places like North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Idaho, and even the general western states, including the Southwest, were below average and ended up below average this winter. And then essentially like a big diagonal line, you had a big area of above average temps in the southeast and even in the northeast this winter. Now, to the right, we have the precipitation forecast. So we had a very large area, or a substantial area, of above average precip in the southeast. We're talking Tennessee, Missouri, Kentucky, the southern states like Mississippi, Alabama. And we had above average precip in California, some parts of Utah, Arizona, but not really significantly higher. And we had a little pocket of below average precip in the northwest. And then around this area of above average precip, we had slightly above average precip pretty much around this area, going all the way north to Minnesota and all the way south to Florida. So how did this compare to my forecast? Well, my forecast was for well below average temperatures in the Great Lakes area, Michigan, Wisconsin, and below average temperatures in the mid portions of the Midwest, such as Minnesota, northeastern portions of Iowa, Ohio, Indiana, and then below average temperatures in New York, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. And then these below average temperatures would stretch to slightly below average as you go further south. And I had a big area of above average temperatures in the western United States, such as Nevada, California, Oregon, and above average temperatures in the southwest and northwest, and slightly above average temperatures stretching all the way down to the southeast. And my precip forecast was above average precip in this area, Kentucky, Missouri, Indiana, and slightly above average precip in a ring around that in a straight line. And then I had below average precip in the northwest and also in the northern portions of the Midwest. And I also had slightly below average precip near Florida. So let's compare. In terms of temperature, completely wrong, probably an F minus at this point. I was wrong where the warmer temperatures would be. I said they would be right here. They ended up being right here. For the temperatures, I said the colder temperatures would be right here. They ended up being right here. The only bright spot in this actual forecast was my precipitation forecast. I was actually quite happy with how my forecast ended up. There was below average pockets of precipitation in the northwest. I called that. Maybe was a bit too strong, but nonetheless I got the right idea. For the big area of above average precip, I was right on the mark. For those areas, I said there would be above average precip in this general area, and there was. I called for slightly above average precip in the southwest, and there was above average precip in the southwest. The only area I got really wrong was Florida, where there was above average precip rather than slightly below average. So now that that's done, how did this happen? What went wrong? Me, every other forecaster on YouTube, on the National Weather Service, for the Weather Channel, Weather Bell, all of them were calling for a record cold and snowy winter in the southeast and a warm winter in the northwest. So what happened? Well, there are a few reasons this winter turned out the way it did. Number one, we had the westerly QBO. We had the QBO transition from an easterly to a westerly phase. We had a very big lack of a negative PDO. We had a lack of a positive PDO. This is a typo. Please excuse my typo. We had a lack of a positive PDO. We had a very minimal positive PNA. We had an extremely powerful Pacific jet that really broke records. And we had an NAO that almost never went negative this winter. And so here are the westerly QBO indices. 2018 in December, 8.05. That's moderate to strong westerly QBO category. 2019, 9.02 and 9.25. And so the entire winter was in the westerly QBO phase, and analogs and data have shown that during westerly QBO phases, the eastern United States is favored to have below average snowfall, above average temperatures, generally a non-favorable snowy and cold pattern. Now, transitioning to the PDO. The PDO was negative the entire winter. We had negative 0.09, negative 0.19, negative 0.50, and this winter the PDO was expected to be strongly positive with that area of warmer than average water south of Alaska and that ridge setting up, but it just did not turn out like that. We had a persistently negative PDO, and as we know, a positive PDO helps to enforce a ridge in the west and a trough in the east, but this negative PDO helped to really enforce that ridge in the eastern United States and that troughing in the northwestern portions of the Midwest and portions of the Southwest. Now, lack of the positive PNA. This entire winter we had the first part of the winter, December, 0.86, so slightly positive PNA. Same goes for January, and then February we were strongly, or not strongly, but moderately negative for the PNA. And so because of the combination of the negative PDO and the lack of the strong PNA, that just basically amplified the troughing in the west and the ridging in the southeast. And finally, the almighty Pacific jet. It really was amazing this winter to see just how powerful the Pacific jet was, and this really prevented any cold air from coming down into the United States from Canada. Really prevented those really strong, prolonged Arctic outbreaks that were supposed to happen this winter. And this image is from the Washington Post. Just to give a credit out there, and these labels are by the Washington Post. And so this actually came in the news as Virgin Atlantic flight broke a record for traveling at 801 miles per hour in this region, just showing how strong this jet was, and that really emphasized that colder pattern in the west and that ridging in the east, and really prevented any Arctic outbreaks and that pattern to truly break and unleash the cold and snowy pattern in the southeast. So, with all that said, I do have one more slide, the positive NAO. Sorry about that, folks, but as you can see, the NAO was positive all winter. We had 0.61, 0.59, 0.29, and 1.23. So the entire winter, the NAO stayed moderately to strongly positive. And as we know, the positive NAO really promotes a zonal flow where we have very little troughing in the east, and it just emphasizes warmer than average conditions, wetter conditions without much snowstorms in the eastern part of the country. So that is also one more factor. So now, what happened to the overall winter pattern with all these factors coming into play? Well, rather than a big trough in the east and a big ridge in the west, all these factors led to sort of a split, the country being split. So you had the jet stream having a big trough in the west, and then a ridge in the east, and so you had very cold conditions signified by these purple dots in states like Montana, what state is this again? Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and we had those below average temperatures extending out to portions of the southwest. And because this jet stream right here, this really strong Pacific jet, you had lots of above average precip in these areas, and also in areas like right here, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, because it was essentially a train. You had a train of lows just going like this, and so you had very snowy conditions in these areas right here as those lows repeatedly went up like this, and you also had very cold conditions here. And so because of this, the track of this overall jet stream, you had a big ridge in the east. So you had very warm conditions in the southeast, the mid-Atlantic, even portions of the northeast. and so this really prevented any true classic nor'easters in the eastern United States, and one of the big reasons for this was the positive NAO. And so because of that, we had essentially these Appalachian runner systems that would not really bring any significant snowfall. The events would start off as snowfall, as snow, and then transition to sleet, freezing rain, and then eventually rain, really limiting snowfall totals, preventing those big blockbuster storms. And so that really was the case this winter. The winners of this winter, if you like snow and cold, were really places like Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Washington State, Oregon. These really were the winners this year, and the areas along the I-95 corridor really missed out, unfortunately. But that happens. We had 3 amazing winters, 2014, 2015, and 2016. Well, not really 2016 and 2017, except for that winter storm Jonas, but we've had our share of very good winters, so I guess it was time for us to see a very underperforming winter for the area. Nonetheless, stay tuned for my future videos on the 2019-2020 winter outlook, and I'll use what happened in this winter to further improve my forecast for the upcoming winter. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.